Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. Coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, streaming, TV, all sorts of good stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a fabulous day when you wake up and you know you're going to see the shining face of one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how are you doing here today, sir?
Well, John, I mean, with that introduction, how can I not be anything but fine this morning? I feel good, ready to do the show.
Excellent. And we do have a number of things to talk about here today, guys. But before we get into it, a little bit of house cleaning. Just want to remind you, if you have not done so already, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the things that we've got going on around here. Also, to let you guys know, this is how we're going to do the show. The first half of the show, we've got some predetermined topics we're going to cover. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. How do you get in a comment or question on the live part of the show? It's simple. Just use the tip link that's in the description of this video, or you can see that in the description, or you can enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comments and questions on the show if they're reasonable. And of course, you'll be supporting this channel as you do it. And all of us here on the John Campea Show, thank you very much for your support. Okay, guys. Before we get into our predetermined main topics today, there is one thing off the top for us to talk about, and that is this. You know, Rob, the name of Rian Johnson, it elicits a lot of emotions from some people. On the one hand, there are people who look at Rian Johnson as a truly wonderful filmmaker, whether you're looking at things like Brick or Looper or, oh my goodness, what he just did with Knives Out. God, that movie is good. But it also is a name that elicits some controversy because there are a number of people who really didn't like his outing at Star Wars with The Last Jedi, a movie I liked, but even though I liked it, there are parts of that movie that I really, really dislike and question. The whole Casino Planet thing, but anyway, there's other things as well. So for those of you who may not remember, Rian Johnson was initially supposed to be doing another trilogy of Star Wars films. He was going to be doing another trilogy. That was all set up. And then all of a sudden we didn't hear anything about it, and things went back and forth. And I told you guys, I can't remember how long ago it was, Rob, that it was off the table. It wasn't going to happen. Now, coming out now, there's a report coming out that Rian Johnson is indeed still working on that Star Wars trilogy that he said he was going to do. And he said it to, I believe it was a reporter for the USA Today, I believe it was. Yes, for USA Today. And that reporter, her name is Sarah Wilson. She put out a tweet talking about this interview she did, and she said this: "I'm just going to post this now because I can see that I'm going to get a lot of requests," because she interviewed Rian. Yes, Rian's Star Wars trilogy is still on. No dates or timelines because he has other projects going on, but it's still happening, and that is all I know about it. And so, as a result, a lot of people are writing around online that Rian Johnson's trilogy, and understandably so, because this is what the report says, that Rian Johnson's trilogy is actually still going to happen. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not going to happen. I mean, listen, I have not just had, I didn't last night have somebody from Lucasfilm give me a call and whisper in my ear, but let's put it this way. I'll be shocked. I'll be absolutely shocked, which has happened, but I would be absolutely shocked if this were to happen. Listen, Rob, you and I have talked about this. This is a no-win situation for Lucasfilm. It's a no-win situation for Rian Johnson. It's a no-win situation for the fans. What is there to gain by Rian Johnson doing another Star Wars movie? All they're going to do is Rian Johnson doing a new trilogy of films. And remember, I think he's a terrific filmmaker. I also like The Last Jedi, despite having some issues with it. I certainly liked it more than Rise of Skywalker, but what's the point? If you come out and announce that you are moving forward with a new trilogy of Star Wars films by Rian Johnson, guess what? No one's going to be talking about the films. Everybody's going to be talking about Rian Johnson. There's a quote, that a phrase used in sports, Rob, about when a team will cut a player or part ways with a player, and they say they became a distraction. Having this player here distracted us from what our goals are, what we're trying to do. If they were to actually move forward and do one with Rian Johnson, maybe they would be great. But the reality is it would just open the door and invite tons of talk, not the good kind, of everybody just arguing over whether Rian Johnson should be back or not. I just don't see the win for Lucasfilm to do that. For Rian Johnson, I also don't see the win. He just did Knives Out. He got Academy Award nominations. He does great with all these things. He has never taken as much crap and abuse than he did for doing The Last Jedi, because he made a movie that a lot of people didn't like. And that's fine, but what's the upside for Rian Johnson? You want to walk back into that? Let's see, when I do Star Wars films, my take on the films pleases some people, but it really pisses off some, and I get involved in a lot of crap. Or I can keep making movies like Knives Out and others. I can get adulation and get Academy Award nominations and make tons of money. I just don't see the win. Why would Rian Johnson even want to do that? So the question then, Rob, becomes, why would he tell this reporter, oh yeah, I'm still working on it, but no timelines, no dates. I'm working on other things right now. That to me is just a play out of Warner Brothers playbook, which is just put it off. It's kind of like when they had Ben Affleck continue to say, oh, no, I'm still Batman. No, I'm still Batman. At Comic-Con, got him up on stage. I'm still Batman. That's a PR move. The PR move is just keep deflecting it. Just keep deflecting it. Let's keep focused on everything else. Let's not have everybody talking about the controversy. That's all this is, I believe. Let me emphasize that. This is me saying this is what I believe. It's not what I know. But I believe this is all just deflecting. Let's not talk about me. Sure. Yeah, I'm still doing them later. No date, no timeline. I don't know when we're going to get around to it. But I just don't see a reality in which a Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy actually moves forward. Rob, you're hearing about this. You know all the history. What do you think? Rian Johnson's telling this USA Today porter, at least quickly, yeah, I'm still doing it, but I don't have a timeline. Is there a legitimate chance here that we could still see a Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy? What do you think?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. There's one reason why, and that's because Last Jedi is the second highest grossing Star Wars movie. It made, according to Box Office Mojo, $1,332,698,830. That's a lot of money. And, here's the thing. You've always said that winning cures everything. If Rian Johnson were to come up or write or come up with a trilogy that was irresistible in terms of what it was about, and the scripts were great, Disney could say to Rian Johnson, bruh, we got a problem. We love your trilogy. We just want you to produce it. You write, you produce. You're going to make that fat check. But we need to bring in directors, maybe 3 young directors that you can mentor. I don't know, something. They'll spin it some way. But if the project is great, and it could very well be great, there's no reason why they wouldn't want to move forward with a filmmaker who's already made him 1 point. How many directors have made Disney over $1 billion? I'm sure it's less than 20, maybe less than 15. I'm not sure, but unless you count the Russo brothers as one. But I mean, it's a lot of money, and I think that they probably have a deal with him to develop something. They're probably paying him anyway, and if he comes up with something great, well, then maybe everybody can come out a winner.
Yeah, I think that's a compromise. I could see a reality that Rian Johnson produces a set of Star Wars films and you had different directors. I could see, I still think that's unlikely, but yeah. I see that as a much bigger possibility. What I really don't see them doing, though, is saying he's directing them. I just think that causes too much controversy. And Disney right now, for the last couple of years, Rob, the name Star Wars has been synonymous with divisiveness and and controversy and all that kind of stuff. Disney's trying to get rid of that. And I just don't see, but maybe just as a producer and you have somebody else in the chair, that could be a compromise. Maybe that works.
Or you say, look, we're going to make this trilogy. You get to direct the last one. If it's going really, really well, and we'll give you the option to direct the concluding chapter. If the first two are knocked out of the park, which you're going to have conceived of and written, story by, whatever, however that's going to work, if the fan base has been reignited, their passions have been reignited by these movies, you get to do the third one. So what you do is you make it a meritocracy. It's based on performance, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Look, Disney has blown up all of the goodwill that The Mandalorian generated. I've never seen, finding out that they might not have even contacted Gina Carano and
by the way, I factually, I can't say how, I factually know that that's not true.
Oh, okay.
I factually know that that's not true. But anyway,
that's
there's
good
that.
To know. But still, to take something where it was going so well, John. It was going so well. And they need a 100% win. So you might be right. Maybe this trilogy will never happen. I don't know. But I could see a scenario where it could happen.
Yeah, the way you're talking, I don't see it happening in them direct, sure, but I think the way you laid it out, I think there maybe are some possibilities there. However, I still think unlikely. Question is, guys, what do you think? This report is saying Rian Johnson is still working on the Star Wars thing. Personally, I don't believe it. But hey, you never know. Never know. What do you think? Do you think they're actually going to move forward and have Rian Johnson do another trilogy? What are your thoughts? Jump down into the comment section and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our main topics today, shall we? And how do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big issue or topic or story that you think we should have as a main topic here on the show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1, shall we? And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Bill Hauser, who writes, "Hey guys, hope all is well. So I feel I have to preface this by saying I don't watch the Kelly Clarkson show, but I have been watching a bunch of Elizabeth Olsen interviews on YouTube, and a clip from the aforementioned show came up on my feed. In the clip, she mentions that she's been obsessed with cutting her bangs lately. At this point, I regretted clicking on the video, but then she mentioned seeing Paul Bettany every day, and her bangs kept getting shorter. She is in London right now shooting for Doctor Strange 2. Did she just let something slip? And if so, do you think it's the real Vision?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending this in, man. I appreciate that. Okay. This is interesting. I have gotten, the last 24 hours or so, I've gotten a number of messages. So somebody out there must be talking about this because it generated a bunch of questions on this. I've gotten questions from a lot of people saying, "John, did you hear that Vision is in Doctor Strange 2? I'm like, what? And then when you follow that, it all comes to this interview that was being done by Elizabeth Olsen on the Kelly Clarkson show. By the way, am I the only guy that didn't know there was a Kelly Clarkson show? I didn't even know that. I didn't know. So there you go. I'm a little bit out of the loop. But anyway, so Elizabeth Olsen apparently did this interview where she said, yeah, she's in London shooting Doctor Strange, and she's saying, I'm seeing Paul Bettany every day and blah, blah. So that got a lot of people wondering, wait a minute, did she just let slip accidentally by talking about her hair that Paul Bettany is in Doctor Strange 2? On its surface, I could see why you'd think that. But when you really look at the context, it kind of becomes clear. Let's take a look at this. This is what Elizabeth Olsen said, okay? She was talking to Kelly Clarkson. She said the following. I've been cutting my bangs, and that's the biggest problem with dull scissors. And every day they get shorter and shorter as I do press. I just disappeared into the bathroom, and every day Paul Bettany sees me, and every day they get shorter and shorter. This is the key part of this. They get shorter and shorter as I do press. They get shorter and shorter as I do press. They get shorter and shorter as I do press. This is the key here, Rob. So yes, she did say she's seeing Paul Bettany every day. Yes, she is in London shooting Doctor Strange 2. But she's not seeing Paul Bettany on set of Doctor Strange 2. She is seeing Paul Bettany every day because for weeks now, her and Paul Bettany are doing the media rounds virtually online. But they're doing the media rounds talking about WandaVision. That's why we're seeing them together every day. That's why the two of them are seeing each other every day. So I get it. Yes, you hear Elizabeth Olsen says she's filming Doctor Strange, and she just said she sees Paul Bettany every day. That sounds like a leak, but it really isn't. She's just seeing him because they're doing press. Now, I don't know, Rob. I mean, look, Kevin Feige's pulled fast ones on us before. Maybe Paul Bettany is there shooting that too. But to me, I thought the quote was pretty clear. I don't know. You hear this setup, Rob. What's your first reaction? Do you think, yeah, that sounds like she just let it leak that he's in Doctor Strange 2? Or is it the other solution that I think that, no, she's just seeing him doing press? How do you interpret it?
With WandaVision, nothing is left to chance. So I would say that, look, I think the first impulse that you have that, yes, it could be a media blitz. But on the other hand, I mean, I would think that it would make sense that Vision has been at ground zero, or a Vision, the Vision, dead Vision, whoever knows what kind of Vision we're seeing. Vision has a big part to play in all of this. And I think this show has proven just how delightful the chemistry between the two of them is. And I think that, when Marvel sees something work well, they go with it. They don't let it slip through their fingers. So it wouldn't surprise me if Vision is in Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, I still think it's a hard buy. It's a difficult buy because, and you're right, it is possible. But again, with the Spider-Man Far From Home reference, the fact that, by the way, did you see them doing a WandaVision interview together? Of course, they were all doing it via Zoom. I think it might have been for Good Morning America. And they were bringing in some people to ask questions. So they had Elizabeth Olsen on one screen. They had Paul Bettany on another screen. And say, okay, we have a question now from a Tom. Here we go. And the screen pops up and it's Tom Hiddleston. And he's like, yes, this question is for Mr. Bettany. In WandaVision, your dead character, Vision, has somehow come back to life. My question is, how dare you? That's clearly my thing. And he just goes on joking about Loki coming back from the dead is Loki's thing. I thought it was quite funny. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about Elizabeth Olsen's comments? To me, it makes it pretty clear she's talking about the fact that she's getting on Zoom and seeing Paul Bettany every day. But maybe she just pulled a Tom Holland and accidentally let slip that, nope, Paul Bettany's actually on set of Doctor Strange 2. It's a possibility. What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Raphael Blackburn, who writes, "Hey, John, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. Lately, the Snyder fandom has been claiming that Warner Brothers does not want anything to do with the Snyder Cut of Justice League because of the lack of promotion Warner Brothers has done, as the trailer was not shown on either Warner Brothers YouTube or Twitter page, or because Walter Hamada called the cut a cul-de-sac. My question to you is, does Warner Brothers not want anything to do with the Snyder Cut, or is there something that the Snyder fandom is not really looking at? Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, it's an interesting thing. It just doesn't, Rob, even when they go ahead and make it, there's still controversy surrounding this project. Cannot get away from controversy. Like, it just can't get away from it. Like, for years, Snyder fans insisted that there was a completed Snyder Cut ready to be released. You and I said for years, Rob, no, that does not exist. There's a cut. There is no finished film. Yes, there is. There's a finished film. They can just release it right now if they wanted to. People would scream at us for years. And we kept saying, no, there is a cut, but it is not finished. It would take millions of dollars for them to finish this thing. Take millions of dollars for them to finish this thing.
Tens of millions, as it turned out.
Turns out tens of millions to finish this thing. And they're never going to release this in theaters. And then is it Barbara Snyder? Is that Zach's wife's name? Deb. Then Deb Snyder said on the day they announced it for HBO Max, she said, yep, this was never going to be in theaters. This was never going to get made. Thank God for HBO Max. Which, by the way, 3 months before that, Rob, what did you and I do a video on? It's like, you know what? This Snyder Cut thing, they should put it on HBO Max. They should put this thing on HBO Max.
All the way back to November of 2019, when coincidentally, we had no idea to know this, but that's when they were first officially approached by HBO Max.
That's when we first started, because as soon as the HBO Max came out, we were like, maybe they should put this thing on Yes, I got an entire video called "It's Time to Put the Snyder Cut Out and Put it on HBO Max." And then they come out and say, okay. Then the head of AT&T and whatever comes out and says, yeah, the Snyder Cut doesn't exist yet. We got to spend a lot of money to make this thing happen. So they step up and they put up the report right now, Rob. Initially, they said 20-something million.
Yeah.
The report now is that they shelled over $70 million to get this thing finished and to actually make it. So they do it and they get it finished and they get it made. And they highlight it, and they basically make, like, DC fandom was about a lot of things. DC fandom was about a lot of things. But there's no denying that kind of a lot of DC fandom was all revolved around Snyder Cut and the fact that it was coming. And they made sure they peppered in people who were involved with Snyder Cut. They made a really big effort to really highlight Snyder Cut, and then they're putting it on HBO Max. I still think it's a bad decision to put it out as a 1 4-hour movie instead of 4-part miniseries like their original plan was, but whatever. They're putting it out that way. Apparently that's the way Zach wanted it done, so they're doing it that way. All of that, and there's still controversy surrounding it. Now the claims are that Warner Brothers is intentionally sabotaging the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. Here's the thing. On the one hand, it's an absolutely preposterous thing to suggest. And the reason why, on one hand, it's an absolutely preposterous thing to suggest is that number we just talked about. $70 million. They just put down $70 million to get this thing finished up and presented and put together because, Rob, as we said, HBO Max is desperate. They're desperately trying to get content out there. I think a lot of online players are trying to play catch up to Netflix and Disney Plus right now. So that's kind of understandable. And this is a good one to do. They put down $70 million. They didn't drop $70 million just to flush it down the toilet. I mean, you put down $70 million because you expect to get something, and at that number, you expect to get something significant out of it. You expect to get something significant out of it. So do I believe Warner Brothers is intentionally trying to tank this thing? On the one hand, absolutely not. It's preposterous. Money speaks. They put down $70 million to do this thing. They're not going to intentionally try to bury it. On the other hand, there's another side of your mind that goes like this. We know that at Warner Brothers, there has been a civil war, if you will, at Warner Brothers itself over the whole notion of Justice League and Zack Snyder himself. You know, we know almost half the executives there didn't want to do it. We know that it was Toby. Toby, is it Toby Emmerich that's there at Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Yeah, Toby Emmerich. And Slimodon sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Slimodon. We know that Toby Emmerich he's not getting the glory for it, so he's not going to put, his best efforts forward. There are whispers and rumors that the people at Warner Brothers don't think the Snyder Cut's very good. Some do, though. I've also heard that some executives in Warner Brothers are very, very happy with it. So that's encouraging. So, I mean, I don't know. The problem here is, Rob, when it comes to the Snyder Cut, and with all the garbage and controversy and whatever that's surrounded it all this time, I'm not surprised that even now, this should be a period of celebration for people who've really been looking forward to this. This should be a period of anticipation for those who've been really looking forward to this. But instead, even now there's claims of Warner Brothers itself is working against them. But then again, even with the infighting at Warner Brothers and maybe some of the jealousy from Emmerich and all that kind of stuff, the reality is, if I'm running a division at a company and I start doing things that are working against another division, 5 minutes later, my boss is going to be giving me a call and saying, get your ass in line. We invested $70 million into this. You get your ass in line. And don't make us waste that $70 million we spent. So I don't know. Now, a lot of people are saying they're bearing it because they didn't put it on the official WB YouTube channel, or they didn't put it on the official WB Twitter. But that's insignificant. It's insignificant. People knew that the Justice League trailer is out there. If they wanted to watch it, I heard the Justice League trailer drop. I opened my phone, I typed Justice League trailer. Boom! Top result. There it is, Justice League trailer. Play. Anybody who wanted to see it could watch it. Now, there's a report out right now, Rob, that the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer actually got more views in the first 24 hours than the Zack Snyder cut did, by about 500,000 or 1 million. I mean, they both did very well. I think Zack Snyder's Justice League cut got 24.9 million views in the first 24 hours. I think Kong vs. Godzilla got like 25 point something views. Very, very close, nonetheless. So, I mean, I just don't know, Rob. On the one hand, I think it's ludicrous to think that Warner Brothers is trying to sabotage Snyder Cut. But then you think about the internal strife and you think about their history and all that. I don't know what to think at this point, Rob. What do you think?
Here's the thing. It's no longer Warner Brothers movie to promote. It's HBO Max.
Yep.
So the idea that ship, any rivalry, I think this whole thing has embarrassed the studio to a certain extent. And I understand that. I mean, I get where they're coming from, but the fact is the decision's been made. It was made by the new overlords of Warner Brothers, and they move forward to the tune of $70 million. This has now become, Warner Brothers is probably like, okay, this is no longer our thing. You guys take it over. It's yours. And I think HBO Max has actually been doing a fine job promoting it. They've made multiple posters. When they released the teaser trailer, the Leonard Cohen trailer, then they released the most metal trailer ever this weekend with Zack Snyder introducing it on social media. I mean, they're pushing this as hard as they've pushed any other HBO show, and I think that's exactly what we could expect. I don't think anybody at Warner Brothers wants this to succeed, because what that is it's a huge admission that Warner Brothers failed. You know, they're always going to come back and go, well, you know, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman underperformed. But I'm like, did they? I mean, you guys were making expectations of these movies that were based on something another studio was doing. But if you look in terms of, and maybe your internal projections, Man of Steel still made over $600 million. Batman v Superman made over $800 million. And they were just assuming that they were going to do Avengers numbers, and they didn't. And, you know, then people are like, oh, they balked. They panicked with both Batman v Superman and Justice League and with Suicide Squad about their whole approach after the fact, because and I think that the fact that Justice League was ultimately a failure, you know, that was a movie that should have made $1 billion. They had the groundwork, and it turned out they turned it into a giant hot mess, and that was their own fault. And if this if this comes out and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this movie has a lot more interest from the fan community, if it generates a lot of subscribers for HBO Max, well, then they're going to be proven wrong. Warner Brothers is going to be proven wrong, and they're going to have egg on their face, and no studio executive, no regime wants that. So they're waiting. HBO Max came in and said, here's $70 million. I'll bet you it costs $100 million, by the way. But so here's $70 million. Go make this Snyder Cut. And it turns out great and people like it. Well, then I guess HBO Max can claim a win. Even Warner Brothers can say, well, we allowed it to happen. We didn't block it. So great. Good on everybody. But the person that's not going to forget is Zack Snyder. Because you know what? He's got a cushy deal over at Netflix. He's making Army of the Dead. They're doing a prequel movie. They're doing an animated series. He's already in big fat business with Netflix, probably with a lot of money and a lot of people that love having him over there. So if they're going to continue to do anything more with Zack Snyder, they're going to have to back up one big Brinks truck to his house.
They have zero interest in doing more stuff with Zack Snyder. I mean, Walter Hamada's already made that very clear. I mean, when Walter Hamada comes out and says this Justice League thing is a cul-de-sac, which means it's a dead end. They're doing this. It's a special event, but it's done after that. So they clearly don't have any interest in working with him again. Here's the thing. And as much as a lot of people want to talk about, what's this going to do? How are people going to respond to it? I think no matter what HBO Max does, no matter what, good or bad, whatever good or bad HBO Max does, whatever good or bad Warner Brothers does, whatever, it's all irrelevant. Nothing is going to change the outcome of the HBO Justice League. Nothing's going to change it. And what's not going to change is this. People who like Zack Snyder's work in DC are going to like it. And people who don't like Zack Snyder's stylings when it comes to DC aren't going to like it. And nothing that HBO Max does is going to change that. Nothing that Warner Brothers is doing is going to change that. There are people like you and me, Rob, who have liked all of Zack Snyder's DC stuff. And so therefore, since we already know we like his stylings, there's a very, very high chance we and others like us are going to like this. There's a lot of people who have seen Zack Snyder's DC stuff and don't like it. And it is very unlikely that they're going to like this. They already got a big sample size of his DC stylings, and it almost doesn't matter. There's a group of people that are going to not like it no matter what, and there's a group of people that are going to like it no matter what. And I think that group of people are significant enough in size that it's going to be a success. It's going to be a success. Is it going to be a world breaker? No, it's not going to be a world breaker. Nobody rushed out in droves to see the Zack Snyder movies. They just didn't. I mean, it's ridiculous that a movie called Aquaman had to be the first DC movie that made $1 billion. Although it fully deserved it. It was a really fun movie. Aquaman was great. But I just don't see how any of that really changes here. I feel like it's almost like the general election, right? You go into the general election, you can campaign and do everything you want. But the fact of the matter is people make up their minds a long time in advance, and there's nothing you can do that's going to change their minds. And that's kind of how what I think is going to turn out here. So at some point, like me as an individual fan, it's just tune out the noise. Just sit down. Just hope that Zack Snyder makes a movie anywhere near as good as he did with Man of Steel. And if he does, then I'm just going to be a happy viewer. So I'm hoping. That's what I think. I don't know, Rob, when you look at what's coming down the pipe, are you expecting, like you're looking at what's happening now with this Justice League. Are you looking forward to watching it? You're excited about it?
Bruh, come on. I can't wait to see this movie. I've been talking about this all weekend, man. I can't wait. You know what? I wanted that Justice League movie to be good. I love the Justice League ever since I was a little kid. That's what I've wanted. And you and I are both Man of Steel fans. And I might not have loved all of Batman v Superman, but the Ultimate Cut I really enjoy. I love the feel of it. And watching it as a piece, I can't want to, dude, I'm going to watch all 3 of these movies at once. 4 hours plus 2.5 hours plus 2 hours. I'm going to sit there for a work day, John, over 8 hours. And I'm going to immerse myself in Zack Snyder's vision of the whole thing. And I'm going to turn it up loud. And I'm going to watch. I mean, I'm sure Elizabeth's going to be like, can you please turn that down? And I'm going to say, no. And I'm going to watch all of this from beginning to end. I'm going to watch the Zack Snyder Man of Steel saga. And it's going to be glorious.
Here's hoping. All right. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think that Warner Brothers right now and the whole party over there are trying to bury Justice League at this point? I mean, Rob made a good point. Is it even Warner Brothers' job to promote this movie? I don't know. Of course, Warner Brothers and HBO Max are working very closely together because Warner Brothers is putting out all their films on HBO Max this year. There's so many moving pieces here that it's enough to give you a headache. But question is, guys, what do you think about all this? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions here on the show. Once again, if you want to get in a live comment or question on the show, simply use the tip link in the description of the video below. You can just click it there, or you can enter it in manually at streammoments.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once again, guys, still getting a lot coming in as anonymous. Don't forget to fill in your name at the top, because if you're going to send in a fun topic for us to talk about and you support this channel, I want to make sure your name gets a shout out. Of course, unless you want to remain anonymous, in which case that's perfectly okay too. Okay, let's get on over to it. Rob, we're going to get things started here with Mad Mardigan's Cardigan. I love that name. Who writes, "Hey, John, here's my baseless, nonsensical theory. Quicksilver is Loki, and it's actually Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver. The Hex altered his appearance to Evan Peters for some reason. He means to reclaim the Mind Stone, unaware of the Vision situation. Quicksilver is Loki, and it's actually Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver. That's kind of a contradiction, isn't it? It's either Loki or it's the Aaron Taylor Johnson. Hey, listen, I don't think it's Loki. Because there's no really narrative connection there, although you can make the argument Loki has taken on the appearance. Remember, he took on the appearance of Captain America. He can take on other people's appearances, and he does have his own Disney Plus show coming up that he wants to promote. So that's possible, but I just don't think it's going to be Loki. There's no other kind of narrative connection there, so I doubt it. All right, Double B Studios writes, but good thoughts there. Hey, John and Co. Who would have thought that Wanda's magic would affect our world, causing theory madness? And thanks for all that you do. P.S. Astrophysicist, 3 words, Neil deGrasse Tyson. There you go, Rob. He just kind of, but remember, Monica is not going out to meet an astrophysicist. She's going out to meet an aerospace engineer.
Yeah.
Which I don't think, but imagine, though, Rob, we're watching Thursday night at midnight, because we all know you and I are going to watch it at midnight. We're not going to wait till Friday.
No.
Thursday night at midnight, we're watching Monica and Jimmy show up to meet her guy, and out of the car steps Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That would actually be kind of funny.
That would be hilarious if they did that. Of course, though, it wouldn't make a lot of sense because he's not an engineer, but still, it would be fun. All right, WB Studios also writes, "Hey, John, my wife's theory now. Hayward is Ultron. Almost had his hands on Vision's body, and Wanda took it. My newest theory is that Skrulls are involved. Oprah, you're a Skrull, you're a Skrull, you're a Skrull. Sad the show's almost over, but the story, whatever that means. All right, Rob, a lot of people lately are getting into the Skrulls theory, right? Because we know Skrulls, take on the thing and the Secret War and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, listen, there's this one theory I heard that wasn't bad, that when Pietro shows up and the perimeter alarm is going off in the SHIELD base, there was this theory somebody sent in that was actually a Skrull entering the field to impersonate her brother to try to de-escalate this situation. That was a decent theory, but then after episode 6, I thought, no, that's not a Skrull. There's something deeper here. But I don't know what if at all, how big of a role do you think the Skrulls are ultimately going to play in WandaVision by the time this season's over?
Well, I mean, I think the fact that S.W.O.R.D. is involved, we know they're going to do Secret Wars. There might be some tenuous connection that they maybe in the final post, they're going to do a post-credit scene after episode 9. So there could be something. I don't think they're involved in the main, whatever's going on here. I don't think that they're involved. And again, here's the thing. The big explanation that I'm waiting for, John, in regards to Evan Peters, is how does anyone from our universe possibly know that Aaron Peters Quicksilver even exists?
Right.
Because in universe, now what they're saying is that within the Marvel universe, we talked about this yesterday, that means that the Fox X-Men universe does in fact exist in continuity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe multiverse. And if that's the case, somebody, whether it's a player to be named later, such as a Mephisto, somebody was able to look across the multiverse and find that character, find how he looked, and maybe even they plucked him, the character, they recreated him. Somehow they were able to do that. And if they, in fact, were able to do that, that means the entirety of the rest of the Marvel universe, the Fox Marvel universe, is in play somehow. That means that every person, including Deadpool, because Deadpool's a part of that universe, that is an astonishing, just from a film fan point of view, it's astonishing that they would make that connection. Now, it is possible that maybe, whoever did this, it's coincidence, and it's not, in fact, supposed to be the Quicksilver from the actual Fox Marvel universe.
Which is the other theory, that it might be the witness protection guy that's missing, and that's why they don't have a dossier on him. That's the other theory.
Right. But I think it has to be. Otherwise, why do it? You could get any actor.
Because look at how much we're talking about it. That's why you do it.
But I mean, from within the universe, from an in-universe perspective, they're really, and for WandaVision, the fact that with the sitcoms and all that, it's so bizarre that I think they already know the answer. It's that we just don't know it. I mean, one of the things about spoilers is spoilers are true things that are already happened when they've made the movie. It's just the audience doesn't know yet. So whatever the answer to this question is, they already know what it is. And so we just have to wait and find out. And I'm there for it, man. That's the one question I want to know the most, because if they're going to say that, that universe is in the multiverse, well, then they've opened up the Spider-Verse over at Sony.
And it opens a lot of doors. All right. By the way, Soul Brother Mark sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that so much. Micro Saiyan as well did that, and Scott Sherman also sent in super chat badges in the live chat. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that very much, you guys. All right. Let's go on here. Next up, I think, is Luke1234, who writes, what is one of your favorite appearances of a movie or TV star in a non-movie or TV role? Example, Sarah Michelle Gellar in the music video for Stone Temple Pilots, Sour Girl, or R. Lee Emery as a therapist in a Geico commercial. I do remember that commercial, as a matter of fact. Oh man, I don't know. Look, that's a great topic. That's a great question, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I would have to sit down and really, really think about it. Gosh, yeah. I don't know. Rob, can you think of one, like a big TV movie star that you saw appear in something else that wasn't a TV show or a movie? I just can't think of one off the top of my head.
I guess I'm not quite getting the question.
Maybe a big movie star that popped up in a music video, or as a cameo in what they're just saying, a cameo in a commercial or something like that.
Well, there have been. I just can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's hard to think of. What about you guys in the live chat? If can you think of one? Will Neil Patrick Harris as Dr. Horrible? That's kind of TV, but it was online. So Chris Height, you're kind of right about that. Courtney Cox in the. Walter is saying Courtney Cox in the Bruce Springsteen video, but I don't think she was famous yet. But yes, Courtney Cox in the Bruce Springsteen video is a good one.
I've got one, and it just happened, to me yesterday. There is a French show that's on Netflix that Elizabeth is watching because she speaks French, and it's a show about a talent agency. And it's a streaming show, and none of the actors I recognize, but in the show, famous actors show up. And in one episode I think it's called Call My Agent, Maybe that's the name of the show. Nobody I recognize. Suddenly, Sigourney Weaver's in it. And she's playing herself. She's playing Sigourney Weaver has come to Paris speaking French. And Elizabeth, every time there's a lot of famous French stars on this show, like Monica Bellucci, well, she's Italian, but Monica Bellucci was on a couple episodes, and whenever there's someone like that, Elizabeth would exclaim from in the bedroom where she's watching it. She just would say the name of the actor, and I was in the bathroom, and she goes, Sigourney Weaver, and this was just over the weekend. It was on Sunday, and I'm like, really? Yes. So that was something that's a brand new show of a big movie star that was in some wacky French comedy.
I like that one. It's a great question, Luke, again, but I would actually have to think about it for a little bit. All right, next up, Bob, the man-eating Bobcat writes, what is your expectation of the Lord of the Rings series and when it will come? I'm not quite sure when it'll come. I don't think they've given an official date on that yet, but listen, I'm not going to lie. My expectations are sky high. Especially when you go back and watch that remember, Rob, a while ago, they put out that short little video that's basically highlighting the people who are behind the scenes that are working on it. And it was a killer's row of talented people, everything from the writers and the creatives and the producers and story editors and artists and all this kind of stuff. It was a killer's row. And so I got to say, man, my expectations, maybe to my own detriment, but my expectations are really high. So here's hoping. All right, Colin C. writes, my theory is that Agnes is Agatha Harkness, you and a million other people, Colin. I don't think she's 100% behind the hex, but I definitely think she's playing a part. She was even teased as Harkness in the last episode, dressed as a witch for Halloween. That cackling witch laugh she did. Here's the thing, though, Rob. This is the thing about Agatha. Now, there have been several hints. Like, if you are somebody who believes that the Agnes character is actually Agatha Harkness, you have some legitimate pieces of evidence that justify you having that theory, right? First of all, the name. Second of all, we saw her wearing that brooch a lot, which was, if you look at images of Agatha Harkness in the comics, she's often wearing a brooch like that. The very fact that they put her in a witch costume in the car and blah, blah, blah. Personally, I think that's all misdirect. I don't think she's Agatha Harkness, but I do clearly believe, I've said this 100 times, she is not just an average citizen of Westview. There is something different and unique about her and her place in this story. I'm very confused as to what that might be, because it often has shown us that she is terrified of Wanda. She is scared of Wanda. But again, there's something. I don't know that it's Agatha Harkness, but it's something. I just don't have a better theory right now. Rob, what are you thinking about Agnes in the show right now?
Well, in the comics, Agnes has been like a mentor and a helper.
Agatha was.
Yes, Agatha Harkness. That's Agnes.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Agatha Harkness was. So maybe, like, we don't know how this situation happened. Something like the unsnapping happens 3 weeks ago. So something happened with Wanda, probably Wanda finding out Vision is dead, because Vision died right before the snap happened.
Right.
Moments before. So and so she probably wasn't really aware that Vision was gone. And she comes back after 5 years. That's got to be traumatic. And finds out that Vision's dead, in addition to everything else that happened. And maybe Agatha Harkness was somebody she was already working with, and she goes to talk to her because of her grief, or tries to deal with the fact that, she gets unsnapped and finds out that, oh my God, Stark dies, Captain America is old, disappears, and how much has been lost, and she can't deal with it. And she goes to get help somewhere, and she's so messed up that some external force that Agatha Harkness is somehow connected to takes advantage of this and makes their move. Maybe is a lying in wait, or knew this was going to happen. So, because whatever's going on in Westview is brand new. It's can you imagine? I mean, they've just kind of discovered it. So it's not something that's been going on. It had to have started within the 3-week period of time from the unsnapping to now. So I think Wanda was a broken person. She went to Agatha or Agnes for help, and some outside force took advantage of that and realized this is one of the most powerful people. And you know what, John? Maybe, now that I think about it, maybe it does have something to do with the Skrulls, because they would take advantage of the chaos on Earth when everyone starts coming back, and no one would be in more of a state of disarray than the Avengers. And knowing that,
But the Skrulls in the MCU are supposed to be allies.
Right, but we've only seen one faction of
That's
Skrulls.
true. That's true. That could come into play.
You know, and if they are going to go the Secret Wars route, maybe they're setting up multiple different storylines moving forward. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I strongly believe, as one of the questions that were sent in that you sent me to do on the companion video, once a person said that they believe there's going to be another flashback episode, and they believe that it was going to be episode 8 to be sort of to go along with episode 4.
Yeah, I completely believe. I tweeted that myself, actually.
I completely believe that, and I think it's going to be episode 8, and it's going to be Wanda's story. It's going to tell us, how the hell did this happen in the first place?
How did we get from the end of Endgame to the beginning of thing? I think and that's going to fill in a lot of the gaps, I think. Don't know that. We're just speculating, of course. All right, next up, Mikey Robert Meyer Burnett writes, "Hey, John and Rob, Wanda could be playing the fantasy out anywhere. It's clear she believes they have to stay in Westview. Otherwise, she could go about normal life with fantasy vision anywhere. So why stay in Westview? Or what is keeping them there?" I think the simplest answer to that is the obvious one. She doesn't just want to have a fantasy life with Vision. She wants ideal. Remember when she's sitting down with Pietro and they're like, yes, this, what I created here, is the ideal life. This is great. And they say, yeah, mom and dad would love it. And yeah, she wanted not just to recreate Vision. She wanted to create a safe, ideal world. And she was able to do that in Westview, and that's why I think she's sticking there. But again, you could be onto something, Mikey. You could lean out to something bigger. All right, an anonymous viewer writes, WandaVision Fantastic Four theory. The aerospace engineer is Reed Richards, played by John Krasinski, which we've talked about a lot. COVID has everyone on lockdown. Krasinski, Feige, and lawyers met on web conference to sign deal. Scene shot in closed studio keeps everything under wraps. I don't know. Listen, Disney, Rob, it seems like Disney has been able to do the impossible. Like in today's day and age, where everybody walks around with a audiovisual global communication device in their pocket, how they kept Baby Yoda under wraps before they revealed him in Mandalorian is still astounding in today's day and age. Absolutely astounding. If they were able to pull off John Krasinski as Reed Richards while keeping it all under wraps, it would be insane. Because you'd still need him on set. You'd still need him with Monica and Jimmy. You'd still have to have all that kind of stuff. It would be insane. But again, I said this before, I'll say it again. Rob, if Monica and Jimmy pull up and there's a close-up of a car door that's waiting for them, and we just see the car door open from a low shot, we see 2 feet come out of the car, and then the camera pans up. We see first kind of from the back, silver hair on the side with a little darker on top, and the camera pans around, and it's effing John Krasinski as Reed Richards. That, not as big as Luke showing up in Mandalorian, but it would be of that scale. That will melt the internet. I'm putting it at 20% that this happens. What do you think about the whole thing?
I mean, here's the thing. It's so cool that first of all, it's so funny that we're talking about the Fantastic Four in this way, because there hasn't yet been a good Fantastic Four movie. They've made 4 Fantastic Four movies, and they've all been kind of varying degrees of, that was all right, or not good. So the idea that Marvel still had, that there's still this much goodwill. And I think we all know that Krasinski and his wife could make the perfect Reed Richards and Sue Storm. I mean, it's right there. And Emma Blunt, can you imagine if it's both of them? What if it was both of them?
Oh, dear heavens.
I mean, why would it just be one? Why not both? yeah, I got your message. We got here as fast as we could. And dude, if it was both of them, there you go. There's Sue and Reed. And this is a show about family after all. What better way to introduce the Fantastic Four? I mean, not only that, but this also is the perfect Fantastic Four storyline. It's like, it's right out of the John Byrne run of the 80s. It's so crazy. And if they were to do this, I mean, it also makes perfect sense. It's not like, one of the things I love about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is there's none of these weird Hail Mary coming out of left field. Within the continuity of the universe, it would feel so perfect. Like, who else would you call? If you're not going to have Doctor Strange come in and help, which he probably is too, you call Reed Richards. Because after all, it is Sword and it is Monica Rambeau. I mean, I'm sure she already knows. Who knows? The Fantastic Four could already been working with Sword. We just don't know that yet.
And of course, would probably not be the Fantastic Four yet.
No.
It's just Reed Richards, brilliant mind. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Again, it's most likely not going to happen.
I know.
Oh my God.
If it did, bro. If it did.
Like you and I will be on the phone at 1 a.m. in the morning on Friday morning. Go, did you effing see that? We'd be freaking. Okay, anyway.
I mean, but the fun thing is, if it happens, we're already speculating. Look at how giddy we are just even talking about it.
Oh, I know. It's going to be crazy.
You think Kevin Feige doesn't know that? He knows. He knows.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on here. Next up, we've got James Argenta. Bold WandaVision predictions. Agnes's nightmare. Heard that one a lot too. Hulking is the engineer Monica is meeting. Hulking? You probably just mean Hulk. I doubt that because Banner is not an aerospace engineer. So, but he is brilliant. So it's anything's on the table. Hayward is Ultron in disguise, trying to rebuild Vision for his body. Twins will age up once more and survive. Pietro is a misdirect who is just a pawn of the villain. The only thing I agree with in there is that Pietro is a misdirect. That's the only thing I agree with there. But I really do believe, because Rob, again, comics are the comics, MCU's the MCU. But if you know House of M, things don't turn out well for the twins. Things don't turn out well for Wanda and her children. But so there's that. I don't think Hayward is Ultron. They're just making it too obvious that he's a villain. Look what a dick he is, when in actuality, everything he's done has been fairly rational, even though he's been a total dick about it. So I don't think he's going to end up being a villain, but we'll see. That's a possibility too. Agnes being Nightmare. Rob, that Yo Magic commercial, I still don't think Nightmare pops up, but I'll tell you what, my degree of belief in the Nightmare scenario has gone up since that Yo Magic commercial. That when I get hungry, I feed on Yo Magic. It's like, that sounds a little bit nightmarish. That sounds a little bit like that. I mean, so a little bit more, but any of those theories, do any one of those theories, like Hulk being the engineer, Agnes being Nightmare, twins surviving, do any one of those theories resonate with you?
Well, I mean, the thing about Hulk showing up, it's just not, it's like, okay, that's cool. Hulk, it's great. It's Banner. Okay. But that's not the kind of jaw-dropping moment this show is, I think, building up to.
Or setting up, right?
This show is setting up. I mean, this show has got people talking more than any Marvel. The chatter after Endgame and after Infinity War, but this is they know what they're doing with this. And I don't think, and even everybody's talking about Nightmare and Mephisto, like every audience member knows who they are. And I mean, maybe they can go that way, but I think, trying to explain who Mephisto really is, that he's like, call him the devil, call him whatever, that's a big leap. And even Nightmare, these are not pop culture consciousness. Like my mom would not know. My mom knows who the Fantastic Four is. My mom does not know who Mephisto or Nightmare is. So while they can absolutely be in there, like Dormammu is at the end of Doctor Strange, you have to explain who these characters are. And in the context of what we already know, can you explain Mephisto? Like, really? If the devil's really around, or a version of the devil, he's going to do this? To what end? This is so wacky. Like, what a strange plan. Like, what do you hope to accomplish, Mephisto? What are you trying to prove, unless it has to do. I like the idea. I think of Haywood have been taken over, although that's a little cliche, by an AI, and now they're trying to rebuild Vision's body. But even that is not really the focus of the show. The show is focused on Wanda, and it has to be all about whatever the end game here is. It's either about her, her kids, or something focused on Wanda Maximoff. And I think everything comes out of that.
All right. By the way, looking at James's thing again, he doesn't say hulking. He says Hulkling. Hulkling, who is a character in the comics. He's a Hulk-like character who has shape-shifting abilities. And if I'm not mistaken, was in a relationship, a gay relationship with Wiccan, who is also connected to Wanda, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't see that because, again, how's that an aerospace engineer? I don't see that being as an aerospace engineer, but I don't know. Anything's possible at this point. All right, next up, we've got Dan Post writes, hi all, watch the Godfather trilogy for the first time. I envy you, Dan. Very good. But what's up with the incest between Michael's daughter and nephew in part 3? It was handled by Michael so calmly, seems like a whackable offense to me. Talk about filthy. Thanks. Well, listen, Rob, I have always said, I think you agree with me. I think Godfather 3 is very underrated. I mean, everybody talks about the Godfather 3 like it's some big piece of trash. It's not. It's really not good.
Yeah, I like it.
Nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, with the one exception of anything involving Coppola's daughter. And I agree that whole relationship part was also a little weird, but everything involving Sofia Coppola in that, who is a terrific director, by the way, in her own right, Sofia Coppola, but everything about that character and everything just didn't work for me. Rob, I see that as the weakest part of Godfather 3. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I look, I'll remember that Sonny's son, who Andy Garcia is a bastard, you know, and he was conceived with somebody, so it's removed enough. It's not exactly incest. Was it first cousins? You can go that far, right?
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I think their romance. Look, famously, Winona Ryder was supposed to play that part. She couldn't because she was exhausted from previous work, so she didn't. But I do think that was rather underdeveloped, and unfortunately, Sofia Coppola was not up to the task as an actress at that point in her career, and was filling in at the last minute to help her father out. And but other than that, there's a lot of Godfather 3 that I really like. I love the whole trying to go legitimate international immobiliare. And in my mind, the worst thing about Godfather 3 is there's no Tom Hagen, there's no Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
And the story of that movie should have been Michael and Robert Duvall fighting for the soul of the company. You know, they reached an impasse. They had the family they became at odds with one another. That's what Godfather 3 should have been.
All right, next up, we've got Call Me Kate's Rice. I love Wanda, but I can't see her coming back from this. The single tear in that woman's face spoke volumes. These people are conscious and in pain. At best, Wanda is knowingly letting it happen and fighting for it. No amount of grief can justify it, in my opinion. Rob, listen, I agree. I actually think that I don't think Wanda can come back from this. This is too much. This is too big. What she's doing, even if there is another player involved, as I think there is, I think there's another player involved, but even then, it's mostly her doing it. Like, even then, she's even seeking justification and talking to Pietro and saying, so you don't think what I'm doing is wrong? It's like, no, I'm impressed. This is great what you're doing here and all that kind of stuff. So unless some big curveball comes out of this, I don't see right now, ask me again after episode 7. I might have a totally different point of view, but right now I don't see a way out of this for Wanda. I think this is going to end very badly for Wanda. I think she ends up being our antagonist in Doctor Strange 2. And again, I just think bad things are coming, man. I think bad things are coming. I think this is like an Empire Strikes Back of the MCU. Bad things are coming. All right, next up. Midday writes, I should say. I noticed that Agnes didn't have her brooch in this episode, the brooch which she had on in every other episode. Also, when awakened by Vision, she seemed to be looking for it on her chest. Maybe Evan Peters' character was housed in it, and it was released in episode 5. And by the way, Justin Ward sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Justin. I don't know, Rob. What do you think? You think she's got Evan Peters locked up in that brooch, and the fact that, but I write off the brooch not being there simply that she was in her Halloween costume. I kind of write it off to that, but I don't know, Rob, do you think there could be a deeper meaning to it?
I don't. I think that a lot of these theories are pushing the bounds of credulity, because while we have sorcery and we've seen Doctor Strange, we've even seen Dormammu, we already this show is so wacky, it's so weird and wonderfully weird, that are they going to go full on the more capturing people in brooches and devils and nightmares? And I mean, it's, how far do you push this show? Because then it spins off the Marvel universe. I mean, they're already, dude, keeping the Marvel universe believable has been something that's been a real feat of what they've done so far. They've been able to put gods and monsters and Skrulls and Captain Marvel and Thanos, and we believe it all. The Guardians of the Galaxy, Rocket and Groot, and it all works. But I think with WandaVision, they are really pushing the boundaries of where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in terms of our believability.
Right.
And they got to keep it. I hate to say it. It sounds weird coming from me, but they got to keep it real.
Keep it real. Keeping it real in Westview. All right. By the way, super chat, like a $10 super chat badge sent in by John Lisa. Thank you so much for that in the live chat, John. I appreciate that, dude. All right, next up. Mike Prez tips in $20. Thank you for supporting us on that level, man. One of two. Hi, John and Rob. I'm viewing from Boston. I'm practicing self-control until I can watch WandaVision episodes 6 and 7 as a double feature. Oh, good on you, but man, everybody's talking about episode 6, so are we. But anyway, I like to go to the AMC IMAX and Dolby. And I know Jurassic Park has an anniversary coming up. Do you think it would be a good time to update the CGI in the they do move and herd scene? It's difficult because the CGI takes place during the daytime. Have a couple of good ones today. That's an interesting question, Mike. Because, Rob, when we talk about Jurassic Park, it was a revolutionary step forward, right? It was it's the movie that George Lucas says, when I saw Steven's Jurassic Park, that's when I knew I could make more Star Wars movies. When I saw what they did there. It's amazing and it's incredible. And I still feel that the way Sam Neill acts that scene, the iconic getting up out of the Jeep, taking off his glasses, it fills you with wonder.
And the music, seeing the brontosaurus rear up and take the leaves off, and the way his hand is shaking when he takes his glasses off, Sam Neill, it's so great.
It sets it all. It makes the emotion of the moment flow off the screen into you as then he looks out and he's seeing dinosaurs. Oh, I don't know. I don't think you go back and retouch it up. Like, don't get me wrong. If Steven Spielberg wanted to do that, it's his movie, fine. Like, just like the special edition in Star Wars. I do not like the updates in the spell. Although I gotta say the Cloud City stuff was pretty good. But still, overall, I don't like the updates in Star Wars. But I will argue till my dying breath that George Lucas had every right to do it. They're his movies. I mean, if he wanted to do that to them, go for it. I don't like it, but I still think you have the right to do it. I don't think they'll ever touch Jurassic Park. I don't think they'll touch it, and I don't think they should. Do you think they will? Do you think they'll take chances and go in there and update some of the visual effects?
I mean, they're already so good, dude. They still hold up. I mean, I just don't like it when they do that because it sticks out like a sore thumb. I think one of the great things about Jurassic Park is it's such a watershed moment in visual effects history. And that, I mean, you know what? It wasn't just Sam Neill taking off his glasses. When I was there sitting there for the first time, I'd been watching stop motion dinosaurs since I was a little kid. And for me, I'm like, I couldn't believe how realistic they looked. I was just like, so I think that moment was him. In one moment, Steven Spielberg took all of cinematic history into account. He said, you know how dinosaurs used to look in movies? Well, look at this. And there you go.
And there you go. All right. Next up, we've got who we got. We got MD who writes, Malcolm in the Middle for episode 6 was a great choice, as they clearly wanted to focus on the kids more, which that show did. And it's a show where the parents fought a lot. It's also a Fox show being added to Disney Plus stars, so there's incentive to do that there too. Yeah, listen, I was sitting there. I never watched Malcolm in the Middle. And so I was sitting there as everything was going on. It was me. It was midnight on Thursday. It was me, Ann, Aaron, and her husband, Tom, sitting there. And that whole thing came up, and I had no idea. I mean, it felt clearly like a 90s, 2000 sitcom thing, but I had no idea what it was. And at the same time, like Ann, Aaron, and Tom were all like, Malcolm in the Middle, and I had no idea what it was. But you're right. It did fit in there, and they love seeing that. So I guess if I had watched Malcolm in the Middle, I would have gotten that kick out of it too, MD. All right, Brad C. writes, hey, John, Patreon supporter here. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter, Brad. I appreciate that, man. Do you think that Kevin Feige's 5-year plan to bring the X-Men into the MCU has been extended a year due to the rescheduling of last year's movies? Thanks for all that you do. That's an interesting question, Rob, because we're often talking about, listen, people are wondering if he's rushing his plan, if he's going to speed up the timetable and start throwing in X-Men now, as opposed to in 2 more years, which is when the 5 years would be up from when he said it. You know what? I don't think he'll delay his plans. I think even though a lot of stuff has been shifted around and a lot of stuff, whatever, I think he's going to I think in the next 2 years, Rob, even though they're a little behind right now, I do think Kevin Feige is going to get them back on schedule. They'll double their efforts, to quote Return of the Jedi. They'll double their efforts. They'll get everything back on schedule. They'll move a few things up. They'll adjust a few things. I think once things get back to relative normal, whenever that is. By the way, Rob just read a report that instead of 100 million doses, or instead of 1 million doses a day, they're actually doing 2 million vaccinations a day right now, which is good to hear. But again, this is still a situation that's fluid. But once they do get things back to normal, I think you're going to see Kevin Feige accelerate things. And I think that whenever he was looking at getting X-Men and all that kind of stuff in, I think he'll still hit those dates. I think. But I don't know. For all we know, Rob, Monica and Jimmy are going to pull up meeting this aerospace engineer, and it's going to be Kelsey Grammer's Hank McCoy, who they're going to say is on top of everything else an aerospace engineer. And, Gambit will get out of the car, and Jubilee will get out of the car, and Bishop will hop out of the back, and, all the X-Men are going to be there for all we know. But I think he'll keep it on schedule. What do you think?
I think probably. I mean, also, we don't know. Maybe there are X-Men and we just haven't met them yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think absolutely however they're going to do it. They already know how they're going to do it. They're going to do it properly. And obviously this, with the addition of Quicksilver, they can't, the question of X-Men is front and center on this show. So we'll see. All
right. And special thanks to John Lisa sending in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, John Lisa. All right. Cameron writes, hey, John. So today we got the trailer for, this was obviously sent in the other day. We got the trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Then a few hours later, WB drops a new trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong. Do you think that the WB execs dropped a new Godzilla vs. Kong trailer to sabotage the Snyder Cut? Given the history of Warner Brothers trying to bury it in the past, no. I listen, Rob, I've said this before. When Warner Brothers and Marvel drop trailers and things on the same day, Warner Brothers and Marvel don't give a shit what the other one is doing. They care about what they're doing. I don't think Warner Brothers is going to, first of all, if they did something to sabotage one of their parent company's other things, people will lose their jobs. Like the highest ranks of executives are going to lose their jobs. If you are working in a company, you run one division and you are actively trying to sabotage another division, guess what? You're not going to be running that division very long. But I just think they just put it out. And by the way, in what world do we live in that dropping a Godzilla versus Kong trailer would be the one to sabotage a massive comic book property like Justice League? If anything, it should be the other way around. It should be a Justice League trailer sabotages, because I got to look this up here again, Rob. Hold a second. What was Godzilla King of the Monsters box office? How much money did that movie make? Godzilla King of the Monsters worldwide made $386 million.
Respectable.
Respectable. But if a trailer for a movie that is a follow-up to a film that made $386 million sabotages your trailer when you're a massive comic book property, then you are in trouble to start with. I mean, you're not in good shape to start with. If a Godzilla versus Kong trailer can sabotage yours, granted, I think that the first actually, this new one didn't add all that new much stuff. But no, I don't think Warner Brothers did it specifically to attack them. They dropped that trailer because they felt this was the right time for us to drop this trailer. I don't think it was to sabotage that. If anything, look at all the attention that the Justice League trailer got. If anything, they would just be sabotaging themselves. And they both ended up having roughly the same amount of views, right? So in the first 24 hours, Godzilla vs. Kong had a few more, but they were roughly the same. I don't know, Rob, do you think Warner Brothers put out the Godzilla vs. Kong thing, even though they're both going to be debuting on HBO Max?
Yeah.
Do you think they did it to sabotage them?
No, I mean, because they're coming out, aren't they coming out within a week of each other or something like that?
Yeah, they're coming out very close.
I mean, you have to remember that what better way to prove to consumers they should subscribe to HBO Max than give them the 1-2 punch of the Snyder Cut of Justice League and King Kong versus Godzilla versus King Kong. I mean, that's, I once heard a manager in the entertainment business saying that he always used this expression. He goes, what everybody wants in the entertainment business is they want to have King Kong. And he was using it euphemistically, like the character in the movie King Kong has King Kong to promote. He wants everybody to New York City to come out and see King Kong. So his analogy is that everybody wants to have their own version of King Kong. Well, Warner Brothers has King Kong. HBO Max has a brand new King Kong. So they're like, not only do I have King Kong, I got the Justice League, so you should subscribe to HBO Max. Look what we've got in store for you. And I think that's what it is. It's that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be good I think if anything, any enthusiasm they should piggyback off one another. It's like, look what we got coming to HBO Max. Not just this, but also this. Not just Kong versus Godzilla, but also the Justice League is also coming. If anything, they should kind of amplify each other. So I don't know. I at least that's what I think the HBO Max people are hoping. I think they're hoping that the energy, they get to piggyback off each other on that energy and really make a big case for, you should come out and subscribe to HBO Max. Heaven knows they need it. All right, next up. Carson Smith writes, hey, John, I've been watching your show for around 2 years now, and it's great. Thank you so much, Carson. Appreciate that. I did agree with you that Mephisto was not involved, but now that I've seen this week's episode, I've got to say Pietro was acting a little devilish. What?
Yes, he was.
Are your thoughts? Oh, dude, there's no doubt. That whole scene where they're sitting down in the town square in the Halloween event, he is acting all kinds of shady.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, hey, so what were you doing with the kids the whole time? This laying in bed? I mean, hey, nobody. And by the way, how you doing all this, Wanda? How you doing? Wrong? No, not wrong. This is all impressive. This is great. Oh, there's all kinds of shady going on with this. Now, is he Mephisto? Again, Rob, you and I have talked about this. I still don't get the logic that if you're Mephisto and you're trying to pass yourself off as Wanda's brother, why not take on the form of the brother she would recognize? So I still don't understand that. So, but whatever. But listen, all I know is that Evan Peters is not the Fox X-Men universe Quicksilver. What he is, I don't know. Mephisto's on the table. Rob, let's assume for a second, because I think you're starting to come around on this too. Let's assume for a second it's not the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. Then who is this? Who is this talking to Wanda, telling her that everything's good and what she's doing is fine and calling her children, what does she call them? Little hellspawn? Little hellspawn? Was that another little clue thing there? What do you think?
I mean, look, I honestly don't know. Maybe it is Mephisto, but the real question is, why pick Evan Peters?
I agree.
To do this. I mean, it opens up and look, I think that having J. Jonah Jameson from another universe, another multiverse within the Marvel multiverse, in Spider-Man Far From Home, tells us that whatever is going on here in WandaVision has larger ramifications. Because I do think that J. Jonah Jameson, the J. Jonah Jameson that we saw at the end of Far From Home, remember that was a post-credit tag scene. That's pretty crazy. And to me, whatever's going on here is going to have larger ramifications, obviously for Spider-Man 3 and the Doctor Strange film. So I think it could very well be the Evan Peters, but whoever went and snatched him, let's just assume for a minute it is. Somebody snatched him, somebody's controlling him. I mean, and do they put him back at the end? Like, does he get restored back to his own universe, not knowing what happened? And we see him going, huh, what's going on? And then what if the post tag of WandaVision is Evan Peters in the X-Men universe wondering what happened to himself, and Deadpool's there? And Deadpool says something, and then suddenly he gets yanked out of where he is, and they end it that way.
I mean, anything's, like you said, man, anything's on the table right now. Anything is on the table. All right, next up, we've got Connor J, who writes, with Justice League reported to be 4 hours, would this mean that Snyder's original 2-movie concept is being combined into one epic conclusion of the Snyderverse? Just looking for some clarification, stay filthy. No, it doesn't. Don't forget that when Zack Snyder, before he left or removed, or however you want to talk about it, before Zack Snyder left the Justice League project, he had completed his principal photography, and he had put together a 4-hour-long cut that he sat and presented to the WB executives, which from what I understand, didn't go well. But he did present a 4-hour cut to the WB executives. Again, this is before he left. So this was really, and the reshooting, they didn't do a hell of a lot of reshooting. They didn't do much reshooting. So for the most part, although he has made some changes, for the most part, this Justice League movie we're going to see on HBO is a very, very, very close representation to what his original movie was going to be. So, no, I don't think this is a combination. This is the fulfillment of what his original vision, for the most part, of Justice League, the one movie, was going to be. All right, next up. March 18th, Where You At, writes, hey, John, what are your thoughts on the new Justice League trailer? I couldn't be more excited knowing that 3.5 hours of never seen footage, including the 4 minutes of additional Joker footage he shot, and how dope is that Batman tank? I was not overwhelmed with the trailer. But it doesn't matter. Like, this is the guy who made Man of Steel. This is the guy who made Batman versus Superman. So I'm going to see it. By the way, Rob, where did this 3.5 hours come from? Because the Snyder quote I read was 2 to 2.5 hours of new, and all of a sudden people are now saying 3.5 hours. Where did that come from? Because
I think that,
did I miss something? Did I miss Snyder saying something else? Because what I saw Snyder say was 2 to 2.5 hours. But I'm just wondering if I missed out on something.
I mean, I think I remembered, like, there's nothing there's none of Joss Whedon's work in this movie at all.
Right.
So I think that's where it came from, whether it was like 15%. And so all of this is, you've got 85% or 75% new footage. I mean, I don't know where these numbers came from. I mean, we'll know when we see the film. So I don't think anybody really knows except people on the production. So, it's hard to say. I know that, there's actors that didn't appear in the original release of Justice League that are now put back in this movie. Well,
and there are brand new, like Joker, Jared Leto's Joker.
Right, exactly.
Is going to be there, which is, they put more Mara. They decided to shoot more Mara stuff as well with Amber Heard.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works, because a lot of that stuff was originally, when they said they were going to, when Joss Whedon had the mandate that the movie had to be 2 hours, all of those minor subplots with minor characters, like with the Flash's father or with Iris West, all that stuff was the first thing to go. They're like, we can't have any of that. So we have to get rid of it all. And it's going to be interesting to see it all come back.
Yeah.
because I think the movie's just going to feel more fully realized, more emotional, have more going on in it. I just hope it doesn't end the same way Justice League ended, with that battle in Russia or wherever. I hated that so much.
It looks like it does, because we saw a bunch of that in the trailer. So unless there's like another ending after that they just cut out, but it does look like that's the big final battle. So, but I don't know. I mean, we're gonna find out soon enough. All right. And next up, who you gonna call? Writes. 2 reasons we haven't heard from Avengers. 1, has any government agency in the MCU ever had a good grasp of threat level assessment? 2, Hayward ain't calling for help from any filthy mute-er Avenger. Being director, no one aside from Monica is going to go above his head. I mean, yeah, listen, one of the things they did make clear in there, they gave a clear implication that Hayward definitely now has an anti kind of superhero view of things. I mean, they kind of revealed that. They tipped that hand a little bit. So maybe. But again, still, somebody, when you have a mystical energy shield that alters the reality of an entire city into a 1950s sitcom being done by one of the most powerful beings on Earth who happen to be associated with the Avengers, at some point you get on the phone and say, maybe we should bring in an Avenger to talk to her. Maybe we should get that Hawkeye guy that seems to know her pretty well and bring him in to talk to her. But I mean, but you do raise a good point. And by the way, Rob, I think one of the things that people often forget, especially me, is that despite the fact that we are 6 episodes into the show, I think only 2 days have passed in there, right?
Right. Yeah,
And I keep forgetting that. I keep feeling like, well, it's been so that for weeks this has been going on. But wait a minute, no, actually, Monica and Jimmy, Monica came out, I think they said like a day and a half after she went in. And I keep forgetting that, and so it's something we got to keep in mind. All right, next up, we've got Ben Rayner, who writes, "Hey, John, I like the Snyder Justice League trailer, and I appreciate the excitement for the movie, but I wish there could be talk about this movie without shitting or crapping on the theatrical version. There is a minority that really likes that, just my opinion." Well, here's the inconvenient truth, Ben. This is the inconvenient truth. A lot of people forget about this, but it's true. The Justice League theatrical version that had already been in theaters, when compared to, say, Batman versus Superman, the Justice League theatrical version, and you can go and look this up, has higher critic ratings than Batman versus Superman, and had higher audience ratings than Batman versus Superman. It had higher critical and audience ratings than Batman versus Superman. I, for one, I preferred Batman versus Superman over the theatrical Justice League, although I had fun with I irrationally had fun with Justice League. That's just I like Ben Affleck's Batman, and I like Henry Cavill's Superman. So there you go. I personally preferred Batman versus Superman, but it has higher critic ratings and higher audience ratings. So I don't know. I think there is a lot of people that are looking for the Snyder Cut of Justice League to flip the script on what has been the Marvel MCU, Warner Brothers DCEU story up until this point. And I think there are people, Rob, that are looking at like this one release of this one thing that we've been trying to get. It's going to change the narrative of that story. It's going to flip the script on it. And so I think there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be very disappointed that it doesn't. But that's why I've been saying for a long time, who the hell cares? Let's just go in and enjoy it. Just go watch it, enjoy it for what it is. Have fun with it. Have a good time with it. If you're somebody like me that you've enjoyed Zack Snyder's other DCU stuff, then just go in and enjoy it and don't worry about it. But it feels like there are a lot of people who are very invested in wanting this thing to flip the script. I don't know, Rob. What do you think about that?
I look. I know that fans are going to be emboldened to say things like, well, we want to get the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad and all of that. This is, I think, a one-time thing. And I think it is a very, it's a triumph for the fans. It's a triumph for the Snyder Cut movement. It's a triumph for Zack Snyder. And it's never happened before, not like this, not in the history of the entertainment business. And I think that it should be considered a win, and everybody should enjoy it and move on. I mean, this is something that turned out to be a great thing. I don't think it's in fans' best interest to suddenly target every studio, unless, of course, it's to get the original versions of Star Wars released. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I would hate to see that this emboldens fans to be at odds with the very people that are making all of this great entertainment.
All right, next up, we've got Ryan Lohner, who writes, my mother just found out about Hot Toys. Her reaction. So what do they do? Seriously, for that kind of money, what do they do? I get it, and I had this conversation with somebody before. When you look at Hot Toys, like $250, $350, depending on the one you're getting, right? What do they do? Okay. Hey, curiosity question there, Aunt Pina. How much did Uncle Doug pay for that engagement ring on your finger there? What the fuck does that do? What the fuck does that... What do they say in the commercials? 2 months salary. For fucking what? For a rock that sits on your finger? What does that do? I'll tell you what it doesn't do. It doesn't fill your heart with inspiration as you look over on the shelf and you see Jor-El, played by the great Russell Crowe, father of Superman, hovering there in all of his 1/6 glory. It doesn't do that. Or look at this Thanos. Tell me, what does your stupid engagement ring do that this guy doesn't do? I mean, look at this. Let's go full screen on that. Look at the
detail on that armor. The battle, the chinks.
Look at
in the
the chin. Look at the face.
The hits. Look at that. Look at this. Yeah, the facial sculpt. Bring it down here so you can see it. Yeah. Oh, wait, get it up there. Can't really see it.
Look at how gorgeous that is. Don't tell me you don't look at that and not feel inspired and feel creative and feel everything. Like I talked to my mom. Say, okay, yeah, ate the fine china that sits in that cupboard. What the hell does that do? Oh, I put my gravy on it when I'm having my mashed potatoes. But people paying like $3,000 for the good china that sits in their things. What does it do? It fills your heart with joy. It puts a smile on your face. It fills your mind with inspiration. You feel good. That's why I don't have nearly as many Hot Toys as Rob does, but that's why I've got my Pops and my Hot Toys, because when I look at them, they make me feel happy. They make me feel inspired when I see this thing, this Hot Toy, or this Pop I've got over here of the Flash. When I look at that, it makes me feel creative. It makes me feel inspired to be creative. What does it do? It does a hell of a lot more than a lot of the other bullshit things other people spend their money on. That's what it does. Anyway, sorry. Went off in that a little bit. Rob, you got anything to add to that?
No, John. I mean, who would have thought that you would be the one to deliver such an impassioned defense of Hot Toys? I loved it. I'm here for that, John. Wow, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, sorry. A little sidetrack there. What does it do? Anyway, okay. All right, let's move on, shall we? Who you gonna call, writes. God, I hate to play advocate for any of his actions, but when you belittle the director in front of his subordinates, calling him a coward, you're getting benched. First Amendment aside, but he didn't have to be as insecure BH bringing up her mom, talking about the debate that went on, of course, between Hayward and Monica. Yeah, I mean, again, this is another great example of that when I talk about Hayward, why I do not yet buy into this idea that he is actually a villain.
I agree.
Because even in that confrontation with Monica, they have done everything to make him look like a dick, because he is acting like a dick. But at the same time, everything he's done, there is rational reason behind it. Again, you're right. If you're with your boss in front of a ton of your other coworkers and you attack your boss in front of your coworkers, oh, that doesn't fly in any business. What do you think's going to happen? She's going to get benched. You're absolutely right. Although it was very, very low to bring up her mom. But again, was what he was saying true? I mean, it's a good thing to bring up who you're going to call. All right, possibility, probability, and I just realized we've kept Rob over time, so we'll do this one more with Rob here. I'm putting in my bid. Monica's friend is Amadeus Cho. He's the 8th smartest person in comics, kind of in Monica's age range, flexible with the blip, Avengers and new Hulk potential, pays off Winter Soldier movie mention, and Disney owned him prior to the Fox deal. All right, I'm going to listen. I know a lot of comics, but I don't know as much as Robert Meyer Burnett, and there's a lot of people I don't know as much as, and I'm going to say I don't know the Amadeus Cho character. I can sit here and pretend like I do, but I don't. Rob, are you familiar with the Amadeus Cho character?
Yes, and the thing is, I think that, again, it's comic fans. It's not a bad choice, but you have to remember these shows are being made for the masses. And that character would come along with a lot of baggage that you'd have to explain, who is this person? Whereas if it's somebody like Reed Richards and John Krasinski, most people you wouldn't have to explain that to them at all. They'd be like, oh, I get it. I get it. And so that's what you have to think. What is the easiest for the audience to grab onto and understand? Because they've been dangling this aerospace engineer carrot in front of us for multiple episodes. It better have a great payoff, not one that you have to explain. It can't be something where you see this person and it's like, oh, who's that? The audience has to go, whoa, that's what's going to have to happen. Because that's how those shows work.
All right. Hey, Rob, we've kept you overtime here today. Thanks a lot again for being here. In the meantime, though, where can people follow you and your stuff online?
John, I have one thing I want to say before I say that. When
Sure.
I did your companion video the other day, I missed a question. And I was contacted by the person, and they reminded me I missed their question. I've profusely apologized, and I just wanted to read the question.
Now, wait a second. Is this the question about
it's Benson Gwynn.
Now, is this one about imploding the hex, which
Yes.
will open up? I have actually got that question already queued up to ask. But yeah, because you know what? Why don't I was going to tag it until the end. But yeah, since you were the one doing it, let me read the question, and then we can both answer it right now.
I got to say, it's really important to all of us when you guys do send in super chats and things, and when we miss them, we don't. It was my fault. I profusely apologize. I skipped this question, and I just want to take full responsibility for it.
Oh, it happens to me once in a while. It does. It happens. All right, here we go. So the question was, do you think by the end of the season, Wanda will end up imploding the hex, which will open up a crack to the other multiverses? Love the show. All right, so that of course got sent in the other day. Rob, we've heard questions similar to this one about whether it's the contraction or expansion of the hex or whatever, but that's something Wanda does. Could it crack open and, just flood open the possibilities with multiverse? What do you think about that?
I think that, obviously we've seen that there's cosmic radiation involved here. So definitely there's something to deal with the structure of the universe going on. I think that something like that is probably a good bet, because when you have a movie coming called The Multiverse of Madness, it wouldn't surprise me if this rupture, maybe it doesn't happen here, maybe it happens somewhere else, but could be threatening to the whole planet or the universe itself. So I think it could. We just don't know yet, but I think something along those lines is going to happen. Something along those lines.
And or at the very least set up something that then gets expressed in Doctor Strange 2.
Yes.
Maybe later on. So probably one of those two things. So, hey, thanks for your patience and waiting for us to get around to your question. And Rob, thanks for sticking around to address that one. And now, in the meantime, dude, where can people follow you and all your goodness online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube show, The Burnett Work, the channels of The Burnett Work, and my show Robservations on YouTube.
All right, dude. And again, hey, everybody, go and check out the trailer for a movie that Rob worked for years on called Tango Shalom. Dude, if you haven't seen this trailer yet, go and check it out. Rob's fingerprints are all over this movie. I know he worked very, very hard with a lot of really good people on it. So please go and check it out and support that film. All right, Rob, I'll talk to you later, buddy. Have a good one.
I'll see you later, man. And thanks a lot.
All right, guys, that is, of course, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Here's what we're going to do right now, though, guys. We still have some time. We're going to keep going through your questions, but we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes now. So what we're going to do is here, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to run out there. I need to refill my drink. My Zevia can is all empty. I need to go get a new one to get myself topped up. I'll give you guys a chance to talk amongst yourselves, run and use the bathroom, do whatever you have to do. We'll be back in just a couple of quick minutes, guys. Don't go anywhere. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as I went and refilled my drink. Thank you so much for that, guys. Now let's keep on rolling with your live comments and questions. We're going to keep things starting here with Netflix's marketing department, who writes, "Hey, John and Co. In WandaVision, when Monica says Wanda could have taken more hostages if she hadn't set up a quarantine, has to be one of the worst arguments I have ever heard. I refuse to believe this is sloppy writing. Maybe they want us to hide to side with Hayward. No, I mean, listen, I've talked about this one before. That whole scene when they're having the big meeting in the conference and Hayward is talking about, Wanda did this, and this, and Monica says, he says he's taken a town full of hostages. And she says, well, it could have been even more hostages if she hadn't set up a barrier. I'm like, time out. That is one of the dumbest things a hero character has ever said in a show. That is one of the dumbest things. It's like the director said, he went in and killed 8 puppies in that he broke into a shelter and killed 8 puppies. Well, he could have killed 20, so he's really not all that bad. I mean, it honestly is. Yeah, she took a bunch of hostages, but she could have took more. That's a dumb thing to say. Absolutely a dumb thing to say. Okay, next up. No More Inhumans writes, I don't envy Feige. No matter how they do it, some won't be satisfied. I don't think, though, that Wanda's Hex brings in mutants. It's supposedly the next step in evolution, an unknown. If Wanda's Hex activates a gene, isn't that just the Terrigen bomb? Yeah, Terrigen is connected with the Inhumans. That's what triggers Inhumans, and you're kind of right. But you're absolutely right about listen, there is no way that Kevin Feige is going to be able to bring in the X-Men and mutants that will make everybody happy. It's just too complex of a situation. When you need the history of the X-Men to do them properly, but you can't say that they've been around the whole time because that makes no sense. That means Kevin Feige is going to have to come up with a way to bring them in, but ultimately, no matter what he does, it's not going to make everybody happy. And that's just the situation he's in. I don't think anybody will be able to do it better than he's about to do it. I think he will find the best possible way to do it. But it is also a very, very tricky situation where there's no way to do it where everybody will be satisfied. He's just got to find a way that'll be good for his story, good for setting up his universe, and good that will make a lot of people satisfied. But you're right, it's a tough situation, and there's no way for him to be able to do it that's going to make everybody happy. So it's a really good point, man. All right, Ezra West writes, I don't think Wanda seeing dead Pietro was just her in her head like it was with Vision. She was questioned who he was. She was questioned who he was all the episode. You mean she was questioning who he was the entire episode? So to throw her off, he changed his appearance to look dead, bringing back that memory of her brother to enforce his deception. Theoretically, Ezra, I like what you're saying, but the problem is, so how did he know what she was seeing, the trauma flash she was seeing when she looked at Vision, right? How did he know that that's exactly how Vision looked like to her? Because he kind of mimicked that appearance in every way. So I'm not sure. I still write it off to trauma. Again, we've seen that used in a lot of movies and TV shows where the hero looks at a character and just for a split second sees an item of trauma to them. And then they kind of shake their head and then they see what's really there. I still kind of write it off to that, but I don't know. I mean, maybe, Ezra, if we find out that's what he did, I'll remember you said that. So let's see where they go. All right, Leonard Skinner Jones writes, John, big fan. Thank you so much, Leonard Skinner Jones. Been watching for years. Curious about the future. Have you considered adding more shows or creating a network? I loved your version of Movie Talk and would love to see more shows like it. Your channel could be the ESPN for movies. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I appreciate that, Leonard Skinner, very, very much. I've already done that. I've done that twice. I created AMC's online YouTube thing. I created Movie Talk. I then brought it over. I established it all at Collider. I already did all of that. And while there were some really good days doing that stuff. I mean, who can forget? Like getting to be on a panel with the likes of, a Deniz Zen, of a John Schnepp, of an Amy Rose Eisenbach, of a Christian Harloff and a Mark Ellis, and many others. Being able to be on panels and things like that in a sports center kind of thing, that's what I always wanted to do, and that's what I did. And then everybody else kind of copied what I created, which is fine because I was kind of copying ESPN Sports Center. So it's all good. All creative art is building off of somebody else's creative art. It's all good. But do I want to do that again? I'll tell you what, not really. I don't really want to do that again. I don't like work. I want to be careful what I say here because whatever I say, people will intentionally take it and misconstrue it to be something it's not. So all I will say is this. I am really enjoying doing what I'm doing, and then having a very, very small group of people that I work with, somebody as great as Robert, and people that I've considered friends for a long time, like Robert, like Aaron, my brother, getting to work with my brother-in-law, Ray, doing graphics for me, working with Jonathan Voico, who has worked for me for all the way back to the early AMC days. Now having a new person in to help me out, like Kimberly Curran. She's, by the way, how good has Kimberly been in our companion videos? Hasn't she been great? If you haven't checked out Kimberly in our companion videos, go check out one of our last couple of companion videos. She's been wonderful. Kimberly has just been a great person she's a fantastic presenter and reader, but she's also great to bounce off of. But the idea of setting up, trying to create another network, of trying to recreate that again, that idea doesn't excite me. And listen, I was recently offered a job by a very big company. Ann and I had to talk about it, but I was just recently reached out to by a very big company that you are very aware of, asking me to basically they didn't say it in these words, but it was basically asking me to come and try to recreate what I created at AMC and what I created at Collider and things like that, because they wanted to set that up too. And I turned it down. I was like, you know what? I don't want to work for anybody else again. I like working for myself. And I really like keeping it smaller. I like keeping it smaller. I could make I could do a lot of things that would get more views. Like I could do more reaction videos, and I can start talking about other YouTubers, and I can do all these other things that I know would create more views, and then maybe I can bring in more people. But honestly, I really like it the way things are. I like having this community that we have. I like the small group of people that I work with. And while I understand the kind of desire to do both, and I'm not going to lie to you, there's something about that. Again, when you get to be in the position that I've been in, and I've gotten to work with some incredible people, right? Like just incredibly talented people. Like also like an Ashley Mova or a Jeremy Johns or things like I've gotten to recruit, bring in, build teams with some of the most incredibly gifted online people. And I loved it. And there's a lot of it that I absolutely loved. There's also part of it that I never liked. There are parts of it that I never did like. But or I just caught a bill saying the Sons of AMC. God, I love the Sons of AMC thing. I love the Sons of AMC thing. And I there's a lot of it I liked, but there's also a lot of it behind the scenes that I didn't like. And I will just say that I like my life a lot more right now. And so, I don't have those types of aspirations. I love doing what I'm doing, and I love who I'm doing it with, and I love the people that I'm doing it for. And it's tough for me to think about many ways my life could be better than it is right now. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. And I still do look back on those days with great fondness many times, but I'm really, really happy the way things are right now. But anyway, again, never say never. Never say never. I'm not saying a time won't come where maybe the circumstances in my life are right to maybe do something like that another time. I'm never saying never, but right now it's hard for me to imagine. But who knows, Leonard Skinner? Who knows? Thanks a lot for writing that in. All right. Anyway, next up. Tanu writes, 1 of 4. Here we go. Buckle up. My theory. Vision's body was at Avengers Compound, but after Thanos destroyed it, Sword recovered it. Wanda learned this and broke in to get him back. Upon seeing him dissected, she broke. The Mind Stone created 2 AIs, 2 minds, Ultron and Vision. But gave Wanda superpowers. I believe the Mind Stone created another mind consciousness within Wanda that evolved to be able to manipulate matter, a subconscious that allows Wanda to tap into that ability. But now, seeing Wanda in pain, it woke up to shield her. It created the Hex and fills it for Wanda, and then lays dormant again, only taking control when Wanda is on the edge again. By series end, the subconscious fully takes over for the greater good of Wanda's well-being, taking on the moniker Scarlet Witch. Now, fully awake, her power is no longer in check, creating new worlds and realities, which, if not stopped, can cause everything to collapse in on itself, thus setting up Spider-Man not knowing and Doctor Strange to fix in their movies. Well, Tanu, first of all, well laid out. Well laid out on that. And by the way, Tanu, what part of what you're saying here resonates with something that I've been suspecting. If you guys have been watching me, you know that I suspect, I don't know, and I'm not even sure I completely buy into this. I'm just saying, I suspect that this other presence besides just Wanda may not be Nightmare or Dormammu or Mephisto or anybody else or Count Mordo. I'm thinking it could be the living essence of the Mind Stone. Kind of like, I draw the comparison to Lord of the Rings. Kind of like Sauron was destroyed, but the essence of Sauron endured. You know what I mean? The spirit of Sauron endured and stuck around till he was able to manifest himself again. At least that was his whole goal. A part of me thinks there's a little bit of that going on in WandaVision, where it's actually the other thing behind all this isn't any of these other characters. It's the Mind Stone, or the essence of the Mind Stone itself, working through Wanda. That's a possibility. And I also agree with this ends with Wanda going full Scarlet Witch. And this series ends with her taking on the moniker Scarlet Witch. And maybe they call her that because of the color of the hex. You know, the color of the hex is red now, so maybe they do that. I don't know. But I mean, you go into some great details here, man. You go into some fabulous details. You kind of even got her power sounding a little bit like Darwin. You know, the X-Men character Darwin, whose body will kind of do whatever it needs to do to survive. And that's kind of sounds like what you're working into there. But I mean, listen, this is definitely something that we need to keep our eyes on as we move into episodes 7, 8, and 9. So again, maybe it's Mephisto. Maybe it's the Mind Stone itself trying to get Wanda to recreate it in a physical form. I don't know. But it's one of those things that's out there, Tino. So there's a lot of what you're saying there that I kind of resonate with. Thanks for sending that in, man. All right, next up, we got I Can Fly writes. What if they get close to stopping Wanda, but she retaliates by rewinding everything a bit, and they rewind back to the 90s, and we will get our 90s episode, as this decade was clearly missed and only hinted at. Only 3 episodes, but only 1 decade left to do. You know what? I agree with what another writer, what another viewer wrote in. I think yesterday we covered it on a companion video, which is I think they had to just skip the 90s. And one of the things that one of the viewers wrote in is when you really think about it, the sitcoms of the 90s and the 2000s were very similar. Like when you look at the sitcoms of the 80s and 70s, they were very different from each other. And 80s from 90s took on a new life kind of in many ways. But in a lot of ways, the sitcoms, I mean, I'm not saying there weren't any differences, there were. But the sitcoms of those 2 eras were very, very similar. They were very similar. And we're running out of episodes, so I kind of think they were just skipping over the 90s. I think they just decided to skip over the 90s proper. But we'll see. We'll find that out. All right, next up. Congrats, Herb writes, I hesitate to take naps due to sleep paralysis. Could only imagine the terror of being on the outskirts of Westview. LOL. That being said, Agnes effed up and killed that dog. Got demoted and sent to timeout for an episode. LOL. Herb is trying to stay in frame. Herb is trying to stay in frame. By the way, he looked really different as that Frankenstein character, didn't he? Listen, I still don't know what to make of that whole damn scene with that dog. I still don't know what to make this. Like, clearly, Agnes didn't just find Sparky in the bushes who died from eating leaves. I no. But why would she kill the dog? Did something else kill the dog and she was just covering up for it? Is episode 8 not just going to be a flashback of what happened between the ending of Endgame and the beginning of WandaVision? Will it also be one of those episodes that shows us a bunch of different things that happened that we haven't seen yet? Like, what did Wanda end up doing to the beekeeper? How did Sparky die? That's going to fill in a lot of the gaps. I mean, I don't know, but that dog thing is still a little bit confusing to me. And I have a feeling that before this season is over, we're going to get a little bit more insight into it, but we'll see. All right. Somebody is writing, CJE for life writes in the live chat, Sparky knew too much and had to go. Maybe that was it. Sparky knew too much and had to die. All right. Philadelphia Freedom writes, hey, John. Conservatives have to remain quiet if to survive in Hollywood. Given outrage over the Toronto firing, is there potentially a market for creating a studio and culture aimed towards that population? Here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's conservative or not. When you jump out on social media, you got to remember, Rob was saying this earlier and he's right. When you work for a company, you have to understand, especially if it's a high profile public view kind of company, you have to understand that you represent that company, particularly in terms of sports or in terms of entertainment. And if you get on public platforms and start espousing a lot of things that are bringing controversy to the company, you're probably going to be removed. And it doesn't matter whether it's conservative or not. Don't agree? You remember a band called the Dixie Chicks? I'll wait. Go look it up. The Dixie Chicks were one of the biggest country music bands in the world. They were incredibly, like, as far as the trajectory of their careers, they were incredibly hot. They were a hot name. And then along came an incident where they spoke out being critical of I can't remember who was the president at the time. I think it was George W. Bush or something like that. They came out and were kind of critical of George W. Bush. And guess what? They got canceled. They pretty much essentially just got canceled because they did that and they were in country music circles. I'm not saying it was right that they did. I'm not saying it's wrong that they did. All I'm saying is don't think for a second that when you come out and do things on a public platform that are contrary or against what your employer and what your industry wants to be associated with, it doesn't matter whether you're conservative or not conservative, there's going to be ramifications and backlash. It just is what it is. Nobody was saying that the Dixie Chicks had to agree or disagree with whichever president it was they were speaking against. But the fact of the matter is, if you're working in an industry where you're kind of reflective of that and they don't want to be associated with that, and you decide to use your public platform to talk about that, then you got to understand that the company and the industry has the freedom to say, we don't want to be associated with you. We don't want to be associated with you. They have that freedom. You have that freedom. You and I have that freedom to be associated or not associated with somebody based on the things they say and do. That's a prerogative and a freedom we have. And so, but believe me, I know there are some people who are trying to paint this as a conservative versus a non-conservative thing, but listen, there are plenty of examples where the same thing has happened in conservative circles. Somebody said the wrong thing, they got canceled. The Dixie Chicks are just one, or I think they changed their name to just the Chicks, but that was just something that got kind of highlighted, right? So I don't believe it's a conservative versus non-conservative things. You can point to a lot of examples of it going both ways, and it is what it is. All right, next up, we've got, that was Philadelphia Freedom. Next up is Steele, who writes, Martin Scorsese, MCU films are not cinema. Kevin Feige, hold my beer. Makes WandaVision that loved by almost everyone, or do the MJ meme, and I took that personally. I'm not quite sure what that means. Martin Scorsese, MCU films are not cinema. Kevin Feige, we'll remember that. Kevin Feige, hold my beer, makes WandaVision that's loved by almost everyone, or do MJ meme, and I took that personally. Again, I'm not quite sure what that last part means, but yeah, WandaVision, man. Now the #1 show in the world. And it didn't, again, it speaks to the power of week by week release, right? Because remember, when WandaVision dropped, it was only number 35. It got up to as high as number 7, but it was between number 35 and number 7. And not a lot of people were all that tremendously interested in it at first. Despite the fact that 54 million people watched the WandaVision trailer when it first dropped in the first 24 hours, 54 million. But it wasn't really all that popular at first. But because they went week by week and built the momentum and built the energy and people loved it and word of mouth spread, now it's the number one show in the world. Another great example of the power of week to week releases. Next up, Chloe Fanning writes, yes or no? Would Kylie Jenner be the most successful TV star of all time? I don't even know who Kylie Jenner is. Not on acting credentials, but on sheer mass of her social media following. Oh, that's Kim. That's the Kardashian sister. That's the Kardashian sister. That's right. Not on acting credentials, but on sheer mass of her social media following and her billion-dollar business, all built on her family's TV show, The Kardashians. I don't know. Do a lot of people watch? I mean, if you were to put Kylie Jenner on a show or in a movie, would people actually watch? And I guess it would all depend on whether or not she had any talent for it. I mean, for all I know, maybe Kylie Jenner is secretly one of the most naturally gifted actresses in the world, for all I know, but maybe not. Anyway, next up, we go on to Detroit Dog, who writes, greetings, John and crew. Oh my God, I've never seen her before, but Kimberly. I loved her on your companion videos. The chemistry between you two was amazing. Loved her thoughts on WandaVision and everything else. Please have her back as a guest. Yeah, I right now I consider myself very lucky that I was able to find Kimberly. Of course, Kimberly, for those of you who haven't watched one of the companion videos yet, I put out a casting call because I need help. I needed help doing companion videos. And Ray's not really comfortable doing it. Ray didn't want to do it very much, although I love having Ray on, but Ray doesn't really enjoy doing that stuff. So I went out to look for somebody else, and I put out a casting call, and I happened, Kimberly reached out and said, listen, I've actually been watching your show for years. I'm a big fan of the show, and I happen to live very close to where you live now, so I can come into studio. I don't have to do it over Skype. And I said, you know what? Okay. And I watched her online videos, and I thought, well, she's got a really great charisma about her. And I said, why don't you come in and we'll do a test run? And she came in and it went great. And it was great. So, it was really good. And, Anne got to meet her, and it's just great. And my dogs got to meet her. So she's been wonderful. And she's going to be a real help and a real asset already in helping to make the companion videos go smoother, go a little faster, and be even more engaging to watch. So I thought she was great. So thanks for throwing that in there, Detroit Dog. All right, next up. Murray Reich writes, hey, John, I got to say I really like Kimberly doing the companion videos. I would love to see her on the next WandaVision spoiler discussion because she seems to love the MCU so much. She would give her own perspective and opinion. Even better, have her on the John Campea Show. Well, no, I'm just going to have Kimberly use on companion videos because there's a lot to do there. I already have Rob on the John Campea Show. Anne and I do the WandaVision things, and I don't want a third person on there because that would just slow it down. Having 3 people on that we'd get through the questions way too slowly if we were to have 3. It's already a struggle for us to get through them quick enough when there's 2 of us. So yeah, I'm just gonna have Kimberly come on the companion videos. I think she's doing a great job there, and we'll see what happens in the future. All right. Let's see. Murray also writes, by the way, thanks so much on referencing that Yogi Bear death parody video on Saturday's companion video. I remember that one 10 years ago. So freaking hilarious. Because listen, and I'm sure I remember that one, Murray, because a lot of people watched that Yogi Bear and Boo Boo thing, and they had no idea what the hell they were watching, right? Because if you didn't watch The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, if you didn't watch that movie and you stumbled across that Yogi Bear parody animated thing, you'd be like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? You had to have seen, you'd have to have seen the actual movie itself first, but I'm glad you remember that one, Murray. I'm glad you remember that one. All right, next up. Nick Figures writes, 1 of 4. Hey, John. I know you're not in any way looking forward to that new Tom and Jerry movie. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I personally am more excited than I think I should be. I always loved watching these two guys beat the crap out of each other ever since I was a little kid. I've noticed you somewhat passively aggressive disliking this movie when the name is ever brought up, so I was just wondering why. I personally love the animation style of the characters, even though they do somewhat don't fit with the live action setting. And even me being a longtime Tom and Jerry fan, I especially notice little animation details in the newer movie that heavily resemble the personality of classic Tom and Jerry episodes. I can definitely see that there was some effort put into this movie. Why do you seem doubtful of this movie, though? Do you just not like Tom and Jerry in general? Does the movie just look bad to you? Both? Or am I just a basement-dwelling man-child who can't get out of my childhood cartoons? I'd love to know. Thanks. Well, thanks for writing that in, Nick. And listen, no, I grew up as a Tom and Jerry fan. And like any other kid, man, when I was a little kid, I used to love the Tom and Jerry cartoons. I loved it when they were friends. I loved it when they were enemies. Because, sometimes they actually were kind of working together. I love Tom and Jerry. Here's the thing. These shows, these movies that try to take classic cartoon characters, let's say the Garfield movie, for example. Let's take the Garfield movie. That's a really close example to what this Tom and Jerry thing is, right? The Tom and Jerry situation reminds me a lot of that. And that, to me, was just awful. Like, just absolutely awful. I thought it was completely terrible, the Garfield one. And when I watched the Tom and Jerry trailer, so I had my doubts that this format can work for Tom and Jerry. My initial thought was I would much rather see a Tom and Jerry straight up animated thing. You know what I mean? But whatever. Then the trailer came out, and that was really it to me. I did not find the trailer good at all. I did not find it good at all. Now, that being said, there have been many times when I've watched trailers that were like, and then love the movie, right? I mean, we all remember there's been a number of times when there were trailers like, that trailer doesn't do it for me. And then the movie comes out, I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Hopefully that happens with Tom and Jerry. But I just got to say, from the concept of it, I don't think works. When I look at past examples, I look at the Garfield thing as a close thing to that. That didn't really work. And then I looked at the trailer, and I didn't think the trailer really worked. But that doesn't mean it can't be great, and I will go on hoping. I will hope that it's magnificent, but I'd be lying to you if I told you that I had a lot of hope that it would be, or a lot of expectation that'll be. My expectations right now are pretty low, but hopefully it'll turn out to be great. Anyway, thanks a lot for writing that in and asking, man. All right, next up. Jonathan writes, even if Snyder Cut is a big pile of crap, I still respect that Snyder has had a chance to finally realize his vision. I heard someone calling this his magnum opus. I don't know, maybe. But at 4 hours, it truly is an epic. Good or bad, we'll see. I'm hyped. I'm hyped as fuck for though either way. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, listen, that's why I tell people, don't worry about if other people like this or not. Don't worry about it. I just see too many people investing too much of themselves with this weird daydream that this movie is going to hit HBO and then all of a sudden everybody is going to love Zack Snyder's take on DC. It's not going to happen. I mean, is it possible? Sure. But it's not going to happen. People have already seen Zack Snyder's take on DC. They've already seen his DNA in DC. There are those of us who like it, and so we're going to like Justice League, the new one on HBO. We're going to like it. But there are people who have seen lots of Zack Snyder, a couple of films of Zack Snyder's take on the DCEU, and they don't like the way he approaches the DCU, and they're not going to like it. I don't think Zack Snyder is magically going to change the way he does everything so he can appeal to all those people too. So that's why I've been saying, listen, if you like Zack Snyder's stuff, if you're one of the few people who appreciate Man of Steel for the masterpiece that it is, if you're one of the people who liked Batman versus Superman, if you're one of those people like me we are probably going to end up enjoying this Justice League because it's we already know we like Zack Snyder's approach to the DC material. But end it there. Don't base whether or not you think Justice League was a success based on whether it changed 10 million other people's minds. It's not going to. And we don't need it to. I think there's a bunch of people who like Zack Snyder's take on the DC stuff, and therefore we're going to like it in Justice League. I think a whole bunch of people who fall into those camps are going to sign up to HBO Max to watch it. I think for HBO Max, it will be a success. It'll get a bunch of people to sign up for the service, which is going to be great. They'll then probably cancel immediately, but we can't control that. And so I think this is going to be a success for Warner Brothers. I think it's going to make the people who've wanted to see this happy. I think at the end of the day, then Zack Snyder got to, like you said, he's going to get to finish what his original vision was. Just take the win. And don't think that all of a sudden this is going to change everything. It's not. A lot of people thinking this is going to be so big and such a hit and everybody's going to love it and they're going to scrap their plans for the DCU right now and get back onto the Snyderverse. And none of that's going to happen. None of that's going to happen. So why worry about it? Just enjoy it for what it is. Take the win. Let's enjoy it. And then look forward to Army of the Dead. I listen, I am looking forward to seeing what Zack Snyder has in store for this Justice League thing. But I am much more excited to see Army of the Dead. I'm much more excited to see what he's going to do with that. But anyway, that's just kind of me on that. Okay, let's move on. Next up, we've got Murray Reich writes, a list of businesses that advertised during Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. AOL, Blockbuster, Radio Shack, Circuit City, CompuUSA, Sears, Hot Jobs, I don't even remember what that is, Yahoo, Voicester, Voice Stream Wireless, and Gateway Computers. Crazy, man. It is so nuts to think about that. Tom Brady has been winning Super Bowls for 20 years. It's insane. It's mad. That is one of the best examples I've ever seen given, Murray, about just to illustrate how long Tom Brady has been winning Super Bowls. Man, I remember Gateway Computers. I had a Gateway computer once when I was younger. I think it was like one of my first machines that I bought. Anyway, memory lane, Murray. Next up. Power is Power writes, 1 of 3. This level of power gains attention. Ancient One and Doctor Strange are all about keeping our realm's doors locked from mystical invaders like Dormammu. Conventional ways to get in are impossible. However, Wanda is an unprecedented wild card. No safeguards. Oops, sorry guys, I just took a bit of a jump. Let me get back on board here. That was Murray Reich. Power is Power. Okay. No safeguards are, and it's jammed. There we go. No safeguards in here as her focus wanes and she subconsciously calls for Pietro. An entity uses this opening to get in and investigate, probing for useful information as her brother. Supernatural taught me to recognize a soulless lack of empathy. Her hex is coming down soon. Vision's dead, and the kids are going to be in need of an anchor to keep them from dying, giving the entity a chance to bargain. I help them, you help me. You help me stay. Withhold, yo magic. Yo kids die. Kids tied to Mephisto in comics, Nightmare in MCU. I mean, listen. Power is Power. You're not the only one, man. I mean, it's not like you're thinking crazy because you're not the only one. There are a number of people who think all of that you just kind of laid out are all sort of tied in and all part of something larger like that. I am still not on that train, but like I said before, I'll tell you what, that commercial with the shark and Yo Magic, I have not been on the train of Mephisto or Nightmare or any of that, but that one commercial has made me, let's say, much more open to that idea. Much more open to the idea of these things being in play. That it could be very well, in fact, be a nightmare or something like that. Again, I'm still not there. And by the way, I still don't personally think that the kids are getting out of this. I think the kids are dead too. I know that's dark, but right now I kind of suspect, and I wouldn't be willing to bet $100 on this. This is kind of where I'm leaning. I think Vision isn't really Vision anyway, but this version of Vision is going to be gone. I think the twins are going to be gone, and we are going to be left with a very, very, very broken, Wanda. I think we are going to be left here with a very broken Wanda who's going to be very, very upset and borderline a villain. Borderline a villain. All right, guys, listen. That will do it for today's installment. We've gone overtime here, and that's okay, but that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, don't forget, guys, there's still a number of questions still yet to come. That's okay. Both Kimberly and I are going to be doing a companion video a little bit later this afternoon, so keep your guys' eyes open for our companion video a little bit later today, and hopefully we'll get through all the rest of the questions that are still yet to come. Guys, thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your day. A special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved here with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. All right, guys, remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.